Hi friends, welcome back to my lockdown diaries. This is Shashwat here, and these diaries are supposed to be a repository of my thoughts and experiences as we go through these quarantine days. So this is a Monday, May 4th 2020. So let's start with the update of how this scenario is in India on the epidemic. We are right now, if you look at the figures, I'll tell you honest thing. It's more of a perspective right now. You can look at it as glass half full or half empty. The numbers stand at something like 42,000 cases of patient, around 1,300 deaths. Now here's where your assessment comes, interpretation of the data comes in. If you compare it with countries, European countries or countries like US and all, you feel that you have done very good. In fact, if you remember last week I had spoken about a story that was there in CNN.com which spoke about how a country of 1.3 billion has only 1,000 deaths, right? So when you look at that, you seem to be on a very good situation right now. But then on the other hand, even a single death is is sad and depressing. A death which is completely unnecessary. You are still having cases increasing, unlike other countries in Europe and all, where the cases are now coming down. In India, the cases are rising. Every day you're getting more and more cases, more and more deaths. So we are very far off from the proverbial peak that is there on this pandemic. So if you look at from that perspective, it makes you very sad and depressing. The big question that we have is how long we can go on like this. How long can we go on leading under this shadow of this constant threat that we have hanging over our heads. I was just happening to look at some videos over the weekend. These were videos of swimming competitions and all these things that we were doing just a month earlier, month or 2 months earlier at max. And we were wondering, it almost feels like another lifetime that is there. And we were wondering when will we get back to that kind of scenario again, or if we will be able to get back in the same manner. There are reports that hotels in Europe and are opening up, right? They are opening up. They are opening their economy in a phased manner, but they are not having people. People are not going there to eat. What does this present? There's something I always constantly ask. If things were to open tomorrow, if you were able to go to the hotels tomorrow, if you were able to go to the restaurant, will you be able to go and enjoy it in the manner that you were doing it before? I have my doubts over it, because till this virus is there, till this virus goes away for good, I don't think so we will be able to lead our existence again. We'll always be under the fear things might be contaminated, things might be done that. There will be a lot of people. I'm not saying that there will be a lot of people who will be indulging themselves, but you won't have it on the same scale as it was earlier, and that is what it is about the epidemic right now. President Trump, he was trumping his achievements when he said that instead of 100,000 deaths, US will see close to 65,000 deaths, and that's an achievement. There's nothing like that. Any epidemic that could have been controlled and hasn't been controlled, any deaths that result from it is a complete and sincere, wholesome failure and nothing else. There's no country that can take credit for for just limiting the number of deaths. You can't take credit for we had just so many accidents only. The goal of a government is to ensure that you didn't have any of those. If you are having any of those, it's not there. There are good examples also of countries. Take the case of New Zealand, which is again and again talked about how well they have done, or South Korea again. These countries have done phenomenally when it has come to controlling. But the idea is not to the virus epidemic will be coming in waves. The first wave has come. If you let loose your guard, you'll get these waves again, second wave, third wave, and all these things. So we are realizing that we'll have to live under the shadow of the virus for a long time to come. Already there are talks that this whole panacea for our ills, the vaccine that is supposed to come out in next couple of months, a year or so, won't really be there. We can't bank on something that we presume will happen in the next 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 year. We can't model our lives over that phenomena. So that one issue that is gonna be that is gonna play on our minds for quite some time. The second thing related to the numbers in India, there are plenty of sources for numbers. The news is one of them. The digital medium is again quite a few websites and all news portals where you go and you can get those numbers on a very real time basis. John Hopkins Institute is another that has a global dashboard of all the numbers as they're going through. There's one app which is there, which I'm sure every one of us now knows, Arogya Setu, which also has this data, which is very much you can access it and it's very much presentable. The trouble with Arogya Setu is it's got caught in a quagmire of controversy right now. This controversy is being raised by a lot of opposition people and lot of other intellectuals. The controversy relates to privacy of data. To be very fair and honest, I believe yes, Arogya Setu is an invasive app. It takes your data. You have to turn on your Bluetooth on, GPS location on. It takes your primary data about your gender, your everything, all those kind of figures. It takes everything into account, and then it gives you a kind of correlational data of how many cases are there within your vicinity of 500 meters, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers. To be able to give you that information, it is very necessary for the app to make use of those GPS and Bluetooth data. Now, many people are talking that this is just a surveillance app and all this thing, but at this moment in time, we need that kind of surveillance with us. Look at this is a national calamity. This is akin to an emergency situation. In this situation, are we gonna sit in our couches and talk about fancy stuff like privacy and no we can't do? It's not everyday affair that we are dealing with. These are extraordinary times and we need extraordinary measures for that. If privacy has to be sacrificed on the altar of the society, let it be so. Countries which take China for example, the only way you're gonna deal a size of India, forget South Korea, forget New Zealand, the only manner in a country of this size will be able to deal with a pandemic of this nature is by stringent application of quarantine rules, right? China has been able to do it how? They were installing cameras outside people's home who were affected and even inside. There was no talk about privacy. In UK, their NHS is already having an app which is somewhat similar to Arogya Setu. Germany has tried all these things. So, if we have technology which is available to us, why shouldn't we use it? In fact, I'll give you an example. Almost every day, me and my sisters, whenever we start a conversation, the data on the Arogya Setu is the first thing that we share with each other. Okay, how many cases has they increased or not? Has it done or not? I'll give you another example. In my 1 kilometer radius, in my 2 kilometer radius, there was a single case of COVID-19 yesterday. In the morning when I got up, there are 2 cases, and subsequently after some time we got an SMS on one of our WhatsApp group that there's been another case which was found in the vicinity. So that app is actually giving that kind of data in real time, and it's helping us in that. I fail to see why we should be making an issue over it. Yeah, the only bunkum thing about the app is its name. Arogya Setu is a very it could have been fancier, but forget about the function is there, yeah. And let's all. In fact, I would go to the extent of saying that it should be made mandatory on almost every phone that you have. So that is on the Arogya Setu. There's also this whole controversy being created by the government to a great extent. Also, the migrants have been allowed to move within the states and all. They have been, the trains have been organized for them, the buses are being organized there for them, and then there was this whole issue of who is going to pay for them. There were news reports of how the migrants will have to pay for their fare to go back to take to go in those trains, right? I for one, I completely feel it's unfair, simply because if we can spend crores and crores of rupees in ferrying stranded Indians from from US and other countries, and we can send our charter jets to ferry them back, why shouldn't we be in a position to help these migrants go back to their homes if they really wish to? Our worry should not be the fares or whether they should be going. Our worry should be that will they be taking that epidemic with them to these remote localities. That should be our discussion point. We shouldn't be wasting our time over such silliness, talking such silly stuff as oh, they should be paying fare, who should be paying fare or who should not be paying fare, what are the losses. This is not a moment to discuss such things. We should be discussing much deeper things. How should we safeguard? Right now the rural India is more or less safe from the the worst part of this epidemic. We have to ensure that it stays so. One thing I should say, kudos to the Congress on this. The rare time that they do things right, they got their they batted the ball well on this one by deciding to pay for the fare. But beyond that, this is something I think so the government should have been very very silliness of them to deal with this in this manner. And I'd like to end. There was on a lighter note, I was seeing today the whole zones have been opened up, and Monday morning was very good for quite a few Indians. The liquor shops were finally open. So there were all these videos and there were all these memes and there were all these small snippets of all these people queuing up after a long arduous days, and finally hoping to have some relief, right? In Delhi, I believe the chaos was such that they had to shut down those shops because there were so many people who were not following the social distancing norm. And that is something that I feel the government should really capitalize on. If there's such a demand for alcohol, why shouldn't they do something? Why don't they think out of the box on this? Let create an app like Arogya Setu. You could have an app like Darogya Setu, where you have a Daru app which is there. You can download it. You can order this liquor for yourself. Not only that, the best way to do is charge a premium for it. Charge 500, 600, charge double for those bottles. I'm sure people will readily pay for them. Charge cigarettes, right? Cigarettes you can also sell through this app. If people want to burn their health, if they want to destroy their health by drinking and smoking, let them very well do it. So might as well, the government doesn't relent on prices of petrol, it doesn't relent on prices of essential things, right? The taxes always keep going on higher and higher. Why shouldn't it leverage on a need which is very much there? So possibly the government should look into this matter, see how they can profit in this whole need of liquor and all, and that could be one. That's about it from me right now. This has been a interesting Monday, interesting beginning to the week. Let's hope so how this week goes from here right now. So I'll catch you again tomorrow. Till then, stay safe, stay inside, and don't forget to wash your hands. Bye bye.